Hi, everybody. Today I want to talk about what it means to hire a process consultant who does not understand your industry. And newsflash, I'm actually going to suggest it's a good thing here. I know. I get a lot of questions in my own business, in consultations, in networking events, asking, do I work with a certain type of industry when I'm doing my consulting? So for example, I work, just as a backstory here, I work with workflows, technology, and documentation, which means writing down how you do things, figuring out how you do things, and making sure you got the right tools to do those things. Those are the three things I do. That's it. And a lot of the times people will ask me, well, what industry do you work with? Have you worked with a lawyer before? Have you worked with an accountant before? And I'll be like, yeah. But I'll usually answer their questions with kind of an explanation, saying something along the lines of why it's actually a benefit for someone who works in process to not know your industry as well. So hear me out on this one. This is probably a controversial opinion, but is something that I have embodied in my business, and it is guiding how I operate. So when you're working in process, your whole goal is to innovate how you do things, not only to be more efficient, which that's a given, right? You want to be more efficient, have less steps in a process to get to point A to point B, to get the money, to serve the client, to do all that stuff. You want to do it effectively, but you also want to do it in a way that aligns with your brand. So when we're talking about brand, we're talking about feelings and emotions and values. You want to make sure you're embodying them in a creative way that stands out to your customer. So just like when you're hiring a graphic designer, you'd probably not want to hire the graphic designer that worked for your 15 competitors. When it comes to a process consultant, you probably don't want to hire a process consultant that exclusively works in your industry, because you know what happens? They start to have these imprinted recipes in their head. Well, at this other company, this is how they do onboarding, so that's how I think you should do it. Unfortunately, this is such a trend that you start seeing companies operating in the same way, following those invisible rule books, and they're not actually innovating in their process. They're hiring process consultants to prescribe process to them. And that's just never been the way I wanted my business to work. Way process driven, and I'm operating, and many others also operate this way, is that by not having specialized experience only in one industry, we're able to cross-apply lessons. So for example, there are things that work really well in the B2B photography space for commercial shoots that can actually apply really interestingly in the legal field, because the way they follow up over here is so creative and innovative. But perhaps it's normal in photography. When we take that little nugget and we throw it over here in the legal field, all of a sudden you are breaking the industry rules and you are revolutionary in your unique follow-up method. That cross-pollination is how business innovation happens. So when it comes to your processes, the things you want to innovate, you want to make sure you're getting a consultant or an outside advisor or just somebody on your side who is able to bring that multidisciplinary approach to process. So in short, that is why I do not specialize in one industry, and many process consultants you see don't either. Instead, they say they work with a certain size company, which is more indicative of the type of work we do. You see, processes are processes. They can apply anywhere, but they become a lot more bureaucratic when you're working with larger organizations. The larger the organization, the more layers of permissions and approvals. The consultant that works with the Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies, they probably don't understand how your 10-person company works. Likewise, a 50-person company is going to work a lot different than a 300-person company. I would encourage you to focus less on industry level niching, but instead focus on business size and human dynamics, because it's the culture piece that you really want to make sure you're protecting. You don't want to pollinate too much of that. You don't want your 10-person team to feel like a Fortune 100 in your culture. You also want to check this out when you're looking to hire a process consultant to see what size of business they work with. You'll see someone says construction. Great. A contractor that is a 5-person crew is a lot different than a construction company with 50 fleets. Okay? So understanding those differences and using that to guide behavior, I would say, is a more meaningful filtering for figuring out who is the right person to work with you. Also, just gotta say it, personality helps too. If you feel like you can speak the same language as a person, whether that's their corporate culture and you have a corporate background, you guys kind of can speak corporate-ese, or it's because you're more of a homegrown business and you love that about your culture, and maybe you want to work with someone who's a little bit more relatable. that is all based on what you prefer. So I hope this video was helpful to you. I just wanted to share it because I get this question, it seems like more and more often. So I wanted to share my thoughts formally so I can just send people this link rather than having to re-explain it every time. So thank you so much for watching. If you found this helpful, leave me a comment below. That would mean the world to me. And of course, if you like this content, you'd like to see more stuff I'm putting out, hit subscribe. I think there's about 2 videos every week coming out, so you'll see a whole bunch of new stuff coming through. And yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching and have a good one.